here's a question for you. In the middle of this pandemic, we're not even in the middle. This is like the first foot of the driveway to the house of the pandemic. I mean, we're so in the beginning stages of this. But I was thinking about this the other day. There's so much anxiety, justifiable anxiety about this disease, not just this disease, but how little is known about it. I mean, we got cocky. We as a modern world, we got really, really cocky. We had antibiotics. We had we had the whole thing on lock. We were bigger and better than any little microscopic bacteria or virus. We were the shit. And then this little tiny virus comes along. And scientists across the world are rushing to try to figure this thing out. And science moves slowly. Learning moves slowly. And it doesn't feel like we have a lot of time to be slow, you know? So all of this is preface to the amount of anxiety that's just hovering in the air. And my question, what I was wondering was this. When anxiety, that constant buzz, that white noise of anxiety that always seems to be present now in this pandemic, when all the news we hear is bad, it's just all bad. When that white noise of anxiety is present and it bleeds into anger, who do we become? Because I'm not going to lie, the anxiety becomes wearing. I mean, I don't want to get used to always being anxious. I don't want to be used to this state of constantly being worried to become who I am for the rest of my life. I don't want that. And that constant white noise of anxiety means that the RAM space in my mind, or the extra margin that I have on my page, I'll be a Luddite and I'll talk about a piece of paper. My page is full of text. There is no white space on my page. That means that I am always in a state of high alert. I'm always ready for the next bad news that's going to come. Then what happens when that anxiety simply bleeds right into anger? And that anxiety shifts into irritation, and the irritation bleeds into anger, and the anger becomes not just this white noise, but this low bass buzzing that's always constant. When that happens, who do we become in that moment? I mean, I'm still me, you're still you, when that anxiety slips into irritation, that slips into annoyance, that becomes anger, that then just kind of hardens into this knot. We're still the same people. But the absence of any free space on this page of our life leaves us with not a lot of extra space to breathe, to reach out for another person, to extend in a "how are you?" or, boy, we can just pick that word, that phrase, sentence, how are you, just crumple it up and throw it out the window. What does it mean? How do we understand how to answer the question, how are you, when the anxiety is this constant white noise? So I was wondering about that a lot. When that anxiety becomes so ever present that it just bleeds into anger, and pretty soon the anger just sits like this tightening bolt in your jaw, or your neck becomes tense and you hadn't realized that you were holding your shoulders, or your stomach feels a little tight and you just had gotten so used to it that it never occurred to you that there was a time when your stomach wasn't tight. Who do we become when the anxiety shifts into anger? I personally think that's a worthy question. And it's worth asking, not because we have an answer, but because if we ask that question, then we have some space where we can entertain that, yeah, I am angry. I don't want to be angry right now, because right now is a moment where there's no bad news. I want to enjoy it. But I can't get there if I don't ask. When anxiety bleeds into anger, who do I become? Because we're not always going to be here. Every single pandemic that has ever happened in the history of the world has ended. People have gotten through it, and so will we. I personally would really like to be able to have some sense of self when I have lived my life with such anxiety. And I want to be able to tell the difference between anxiety and anger. So those are my ruminations for the day. What are yours? No, seriously, I'm actually curious. I even wrote it down. I even wrote down my question. Here's the question that I wrote down to remind myself. Is there anything you'd like to say about what you heard in this video that you wanted to share? Comment below. Let me know. I drink a toast to you with my lemon ginger tea. And my toast to you is that you may have a moment of peace and an opportunity in this day that you might have a quiet moment where there is no bad news. Cheers. I'm Catherine, and this is my Real Pandemic Diary.